The date is June 1st, 2025, and I'm making this recording, which hopefully will be a video, because I believe I have a very interesting prediction about the upcoming Avengers Doomsday movie, currently slated for December 2026. And the reason I'm making this video is because earlier this year there was a casting announcement, very hyped up, where a bunch of chairs were listed out of different actors that will be in Avengers Doomsday. And there's a lot of discussion on whether this was all of the actors, whether this was only some of the actors, and just a lot of discussion about those characters in general. And people try to piece together, different theories based on that. But during all of this discussion, I had a theory that no one really was talking about. And the theory got actually bolstered after the Thunderbolts movie came out in early May. And so I decided I need to make a video about this just to see if I'm right about this, and no one else is talking about it. I might as well, be right. It feels nice to be right. Anyway, so what was my theory? I'll just come out with it, and that is that the order of the chairs, their order of appearance. What do I mean by order of appearance? Well, sometimes in a cast, whether it's a play or a movie, sometimes the credits are shown by the characters in order of appearance. So the order you actually seen in the movie. So if the scene starts off with two characters, those are the first two characters on the list of order of appearance. So my theory was actually that the order the chairs were put down, that we saw them, was in the order that they will be appearing in the movie. That was my theory, and I just was thinking about that. And then I watched Thunderbolts, and all of a sudden it became clear as day. So I have a list of all the characters that we saw listed out, or the actors rather. And once you start putting them into different groups and teams, all of a sudden you see what I mean. And it starts becoming pretty clear that there's some kind of pattern. I'll show you just really quick the colors, and you see basically every character can fall within either the Avengers, the Thunderbolts, the XMen, the Fantastic Four, or an outsider character, which I'll explain a little bit later. So anyway, that being said, I have used this and used what we know about Doomsday and used what we know about Fantastic Four and what we know, obviously, about the Thunderbolts movie to make a prediction of how the movie will go, at least how it will start. So let's start with our very first character. The very first character is, drumroll, Chris Hemsworth's Thor. So why Thor? Why does that make sense? Well, I actually had to think about this for a little bit, but it makes a lot of sense. When you're making an epic, when you're making a movie of gigantic scale, like Avengers, Infinity War, or Endgame, or Doomsday, something like this, right? You don't start off with your most important character first. You never just reveal your hand completely at once. In fact, I think it's very easy for me to see a world where you start off with a character that people know, a character people love, a character people haven't seen in a while, but a character who's not in the main storyline per se. Think about Infinity War. This actually started with Thor. He was outside the main world. He was an important part, but he wasn't the main thing. They didn't start off with Iron Man. They didn't start off with Cap. They started off with Thor, away from everyone else. And I think this movie's going to start very, very similar. To be honest, we haven't seen Thor since Thor 4, and he was way isolated from all the other characters. So I can easily see this epic starting with Thor. Now, what is Thor doing? Well, last we saw, he was out in space and between realms, fighting battles with his adopted but not adopted daughter. Anyway, so who is the second character? Who's the second character? Well, the second character is Vanessa Kirby's Invisible Woman. Now, immediately you might be thinking, okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. Here's one of my twists that I think no one's really getting. So in the Thunderbolts movie, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, the very last end credit, we see a ship coming into Earth's orbit, and the ship has the Fantastic Four logo. Now, everyone seems to be thinking that all of the Fantastic Four are on that ship, and maybe some other people too. I don't think that's the case. And now, again, I'm recording this on June 1st, 2025, so I haven't seen the movie yet. I could be dead wrong here. But let me explain. It seems kind of intuitive that, well, the first time we're going to see the Fantastic Four, we're going to see them all together, and they're going to be like, whoa, Avengers, meet the Fantastic Four, here's everyone meeting. That may be like an intuitive way to think about how they're going to meet. I think that's not a very cinematic way to introduce this family. Because at the core, that's what the Fantastic Four is. It's a true family, right? A brother, sister, husband and a wife, and then, the friend, the buddy, the guy who just brings the family together, right? Well, for me, I don't think they're going to introduce them to the Avengers characters, the ones we're used to, all at once. I think it would be much more interesting if we're introduced to them bit by bit. The family is actually split up. That's my theory, that Fantastic Four actually ends with the family splitting up. That's the cliffhanger. Everyone goes in different directions for the most part, and I have a theory on that as well. I don't think they're going to introduce them to us like, hey, Fantastic Four, meet Avengers, or they just step off the ship and like, boom, here we are. I don't think that's how it's going to be. I think they're going to meet them piece by piece, and then they're going to, by the end of the movie, know all of them. Anyway, that being said, so I think the first scene 1, Thor runs into Invisible Woman out in space. I don't know what he's doing. He's just out there, and all of a sudden some kind of portal or whatever, and boom, Invisible Woman's there. and all she says to him is, we're in serious trouble, or something like that, something ominous, like, we need help, or I need help to find my family, or can you help me, something like that, right? Whatever it is, it's the action that's going to get Thor saying, this is weird, I don't know what's going on, let me go back to Earth, I haven't been there in a while, let me reconnect with my old friends and see what's going on, because this is kind of weird, okay? That's scene 1, boom. And, title credits, Avengers, Doomsday. Okay, now, after we have our intro scene, we're back into that world, who do we see next? Well, I would think you'd want to see a character that is very important, central to this next film, who's going to be, prominent. So who do you think that could be? Well, third chair was Anthony Mackie's Captain America. That makes sense. Now we get the main thrust of the character. Boom. Okay. So we know he's going to be in the next scene. But what is the scene going to be about? The last time we saw characters in the chronology was the end of Thunderbolts, and they got a call, right? Or they're not a call, a notification that the ship's coming in. So we know the Thunderbolts characters are seeing the ship come in. But they were just on the phone with Sam, Captain America. So I think we're going to, it doesn't a huge jump, but I think we're going to start there. I think we're going to start the movie from their side of things, from Sam's team side of things, of seeing the ship come in and go from there. Okay, so that's where we start. Now, let me ask you this. Who is another really key character who can match with Sam, his level of significance and familiarity? Well, that would be none other than Sebastian Stan, chair number 4, Winter Soldier. So I actually went back and forth on this. My current theory is that we'll see Falcon actually on a call with Bucky. Like, we'll see Sam in live action, and then Bucky will be on a call, and they'll be talking about the ship, and maybe they'll be arguing a little bit about, the team and whatnot, who's going to go get the ship. But either way, then I think Sam's team is going to be there. So if we think about that, who is on Sam's team? Who is the team he got together? We know for sure Falcon's on that team, but I would also think that Shuri's Black Panther is going to be on there as well. Ant-Man, all those. Again, you have to think about the team based on the chairs, not based on all the Avengers that we know that are out there, but based on the chairs, who is part of Sam's team. I would think, like I said, Captain America, Falcon, Shuri, Ant-Man, Shang-Chi, maybe characters like that. Well, wouldn't you know it, those are some of the next characters on the chair list. First, Shuri, Letitia Wright, boom. Second, Ant-Man, Paul Rudd. And so those are the next 2 characters. So I think that he's going to be, wherever he's at, Shuri and Ant-Man are there as well. And then we see who's the next character. Well, the next character is another Thunderbolt. So we know Bucky's on the call. So I think that the next character just butts in on the call to show us that they're all together. And that character, of course, is Wyatt Russell, the U.S. agent. So I think he's on the call. Maybe make some quip about something or whatever. But that's how the first scene we're going to see them, just them discussing. Maybe they're flying on the way to get the to find where the ship landed, something like that. Okay, then what? So the next character on the chair list was Tenochtitlan Mecha, which is Namor. And I think we're just going to cut to Namor, and he's going to be telling his warriors something like, the time has come, or we need to investigate, let's go find, something like that. So getting him engaged, like, hey, this is the character. Okay, that one's easy. He has his own scene. Okay, boom. What's the next scene? Well, the next character on the list, and this is where it gets a little interesting, is Ebon Moss-Barack's The Thing. So here's my theory. My theory is this. An invisible woman out in space somewhere. And I think they went looking for her. But I think The Thing is on the ship. He's not the only one who's going to be on the ship, or at least was on the ship. But I think The Thing is on the ship. I think that just makes sense in my head. That he would be flying in, and we'll see with someone else. But I think we first see him coming out of the ship, and like by himself, no one's there. He's just crash landing. Oh, where am I? Oh, it's Earth. And the first character he runs into is Shang-Chi. I think Shang-Chi's going to be there by himself already, because there hasn't been that much interaction with the Avengers that we know of. Like, he's never talked to Sam that we know of. He's never talked to, Ant-Man, Black Panther, whatever. So he's just going to be there by himself, because all of a sudden he's like, I need to step in. I'm, noticing something is off. I need to go, whatever. So I think things are going to come out, and Shang-Chi's going to be like, welcome to Earth, or who are you? Something like that. Okay, that's scene 4. What's the next scene? Well, I think now we cut back to the Thunderbolts, because I don't know if all the Thunderbolts are going to go check it out. I think some of them have to stay at Avengers Tower and keep watch. And keep watch? What do you mean? Well, I'll explain. The next chair was Florence Pugh, Yolena. I think she's going to be at Avengers Tower. And what is she going to be doing there? Well, think about who can't go into action right now. That would be Sentry. Sentry still, he said in the last movie, we don't know if he, can use his power without causing the void. So we're just not sure there, right? So Sentry needs to stay at the Avengers Tower. And I think, Florence Pugh's going to stay there, kind of monitor things with him there. And he happens to be our 13th character. So boom, Yelena, Sentry, that totally makes sense to me. But, and that makes sense because think about the connection they had. They clearly had a connection, maybe not romantic or anything, but they clearly had a connection in the Thunderbolts movie. So I think that's what we're going to see them together to begin with, like, hey, remember them? Remember they were close? Yeah. So who's this middle character? Who is in that scene with them? here's where things get interesting. And there's a spoiler alert, but one of the ways I got onto this theory was all of the X-Men characters we're going to see were all listed chair after chair after chair, all together at the same time. But what's interesting, there was one X-Men that was not seen with that group. And that X-Men is only one of 2 X-Men that we have currently seen in the MCU that hasn't died, and that would be Kelsey Grammer's Beast. I think it's very significant. All the other X-Men on the list, we have not seen these versions in the MCU, except for Gambit, right? And that was in the Void, and Deadpool Wolverine. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But the Beast, we have seen him in a mainstream MCU movie in an end credit. And what was he doing? He was picking up a Monica Rambeau who just crashed through this kind of hole in the universes, and she fell into another universe, right? And there's Binary there. Binary was her mother, the actress, but it was not her mother. It was actually, a different character. So here's my theory. What does that mean? Well, if one X-Men was going to show itself first before any of the others, it would be Beast. So I think somehow, some way, Beast either created a portal or somehow, you remember he's a genius. He has found a way to get through from his universe to the other universe. And I don't know exactly what he does or why he does, but I have a couple theories. I think he comes through here, and Yolena and Sentry are there to be like, whoa, what the heck? Why is Beast coming here? And there's a couple reasons I think this. One, I think he's coming for help. But 2, like I said, he's the only character we know we've seen before. And so I think that makes sense. And he was ready to think about this. When Monica Rambeau comes through, he's going to be testing and figuring out, wait, what the heck? Where did she come from? So he's the one on the forefront of reaching out to another universe. Why? I'm not sure. I have some theories, though. I actually think that the reason when he comes through here, I think he comes through with Binary and Monica Rambeau as well. I don't think it's just him. I think they didn't tell us those characters because it would be a dead giveaway, but how things go. But I think that is what happens here. So the next 2 characters have something in common. I'm going to show you them both at the same time, and that's Danny Ramirez's Falcon and Joseph Quinn's Human Torch. What do they have in common? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Yes, they both fly. So what happens here? I think when the ship's coming into orbit, into Earth, I think the Thing's on there and the Human Torch is on there. I don't know who else, but I know them for sure. Well, the Human Torch can fly. So he's going to jump out of the ship and fly around the Earth to try to see, where are we, what's going on, try to get his bearings, okay? Well, they see that happening. Of course, he's a strong heat signature. So Captain America sends Falcon, go chase after him, go check him out, see what's going on. And I think that's the first time we see both of them, him flying, chasing after him. I don't know what happens there, but that's our first scene together. And then the Thing just crash lands. He's a rock. He can do that. Whatever. Anyway, that's the first scene. I'm not sure what else is going on there. The next character's kind of messed me up a little bit, but the next character on the list is David Harbour's Red Guardian. I'm not sure about this one exactly. I think either we're going to see him for the first time on the ship, or with the Thunderbolts. I think we're going to see him with other Thunderbolts. Maybe Bucky, U.S. agent, they're all going to find the Thing side. Now they're going. The 3 of them are going to go. Something like that, okay? Scene 8, also trippy for me, but it's Inbaku. And I think the scene here is kind of similar to the Namor scene where Inbaku's kind of with Okoye and some of the other advisors from Wakanda, and they're like, hey, some ships are incoming. There's a guy flying around the Earth. What do you want us to do? And he's like, we need to prepare for defenses because I don't know what's going on. This is kind of weird. So I think we're just going to have a scene with him in Wakanda. Nothing special. Next character is Hannah John Kamen's Ghost, right? So what happens here? I think she's also in Avengers Tower. I think this is just the first time we see her, but she'll all of a sudden come into the shot and we'll be talking with Beast again and Yolena and Sentry, and it's what's going on? Some dialogue scene. Okay. But I think she's there as well. The next chair is Tom Hiddleston's Loki. So I think this is the first time we see him in the movie, obviously, order of appearance, and he's just going to be sensing something and deciding he needs to intervene, something like that. It's going to be a solo scene or him looking at the multiverse or something. But it's going to be our first indication of he's going to do something different. I don't know if he immediately jumps into the characters here, but I think we're going to see him in the tree and he's like, oh man, I have to do something, or I don't know. But we're going to have a solo scene by himself, I think. Okay, and here we get to the fun stuff. We get the X-Men. And of course, who are the 2 most prominent X-Men of all time? Well, that would be Professor X and Magneto, which are exactly the first 2 chairs we see, okay? We see Professor X and we see Magneto. And then the next characters, I'll just list them out here. Alan Cummings' Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn's Mystiques, James Marsden's Cyclops, and Channing Tatum's Gambit. All once we see them, which is also really funny. I can totally see this being a gag. Who's the odd man out here? Well, obviously it's Gambit. We've never seen Gambit with these Fox X-Men before. He was only in Deadpool Wolverine, and all that stuff. I don't need to go into all the reasons as to why. I think we're going to see all the X-Men, and we're going to pan to we know all these, and then all of a sudden, who's the last one to see? Channing Tatum. Boom. That makes so much sense to me that he'd be the last person we would see of these group. And for those who don't know, those who don't understand, they're going to be like, oh, wow, there he is. Ha ha, that's funny. Last X-Men on the list. Okay. So what's going to happen here? A couple theories. I've heard rumors that there's going to be a scene where the X-Mansion is under attack. So I think we're going to start off with some kind of fight scene. I don't know if it's the quote-unquote bad X-Men fighting the good X-Men, or I think it may just be all the X-Men uniting together against some other force. some other kind of force taking them out. I don't know if it's Doombots. I don't know what it is. Here's my theory. Okay, here's my theory. My theory is that there's going to be some other... There's going to be a planet or a universe that's under an incursion attack, meaning that two universes are coming too close in contact and are going to destroy themselves. I don't know why. I don't know how. Hey, maybe it's... You know what? I don't know why I didn't think about this right now. But at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine, there's this weird thing. The Deadpool that we know is in the same universe as the X-Men that we know. And he brings, right, a Wolverine from a different universe into that world. And it's just going to be like, hey, essentially there are two Wolverines living in that world. If you do the math, there are two Wolverines alive at that moment. One's going to die later in the Logan movie, and one is the one he brought over from the other universe. Maybe that's what causes the incursion. I don't know. That is technically a multi-universal character not being where he's supposed to be. So anyway, maybe the cause of an incursion, and there's some people from that world coming in. Oh, you know what? Oh my gosh. What if the people who killed, if you remember, Deadpool Wolverine, that other Wolverine, that he was called the worst Wolverine, all his X-Men friends died because he was too scared. And they were killed off by some humans. We don't know who. What if all of a sudden those humans are attacking these X-Men because the universe are getting too close, incursion. Anyway, they're under attack. That's the point. Well, from other universal characters. That's what my theory is. From other universal characters. Characters from another universe. Well, I think this is where we get introduced to Mr. Fantastic. I think he comes through here and they attack him thinking he's one of the bad ones. And I don't know why they think that. He's a human, looks like a human, all this stuff. And the reason why I think there's two reasons. One is because I think there's a scene we know for sure that Nightcrawler will be fighting Mr. Fantastic. I've heard that rumored. So, boom, this gives an opportunity for that. But two, he's also the next chair. Chair 26, Pedro Pascal, Mr. Fantastic. So he comes in here. They don't know what they're doing. Yada da da. Okay. From there, I don't know exactly where we go from there. I don't know if he leads the X-Men to go fight, the new Avengers and something like that. I don't know. But that's where we are. Okay. Last character we see. Last prominent character we get to meet is Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom. No idea how he comes in. I'm going to be the first person to say that. I don't know if he is, coming in from the universe where the worst Wolverine was from in that theory, or if he just pops in. I don't know any of that. He may have his own solo scene, but here we are. That's my prediction for how the movie's going to start. I think by the time we see Dr. Doom, that'll be like the middle of the movie. That's my theory right now. As of June 1st, 2025, after seeing Thunderbolts, for hearing some rumors, currently that's my theory. I want to update this because obviously there's no way Fantastic Four, that movie, doesn't give us more information. If we get more information on that movie, I will make an update to this, hopefully, and either be reconfirmed that I was right, or be like, okay, I was wrong. Maybe we can adjust this a little bit. But I don't know, man. Order of appearance. That's my theory, and here's why I'm using that theory. We'll see. We'll see if this holds up. If it doesn't, that's fine. If it does, I'm a wizard, and you heard it here first.